How we do this, we are the truest. Got these fangs super sharp, your shit toothless. Cold-hearted, yeah we ruthless. All the ghouls in the cut, let's get ghoulish. In the graveyard, acting foolish. Finna dance with the devil to no music. Cold-hearted, yeah we ruthless. All the ghouls in the cut, let's get ghoulish.
Hello and welcome to another episode of a podcast some folks might call the Ghoulish podcast. I am one of those folks. I would call it that. I am Max Booth, an undead host, and today on the show I am talking to Preston Fassel about cursed media. If that sounds like something you are interested in, oh boy. I mean, congratulations on finding this podcast. What a coincidence that this mutual interest would align and you would find us. I am so stoked to have you here to listen to this conversation. It's a fun one. I had a lot of fun with it. Preston knows a lot about a little bit of everything, and he was the perfect guest for this episode. Yeah. I have things to promote, you know? I publish books. I write books. I don't want to talk about them, though. I should. Just go on over to ghoulish.lip. That's RIP. We don't do comms now. We do rips. Ghoulish.rip. And you will find some spooky books we've published, some spooky books we just have in stock at the Ghoulish Books bookshop. We sell them online too, but we also have a physical shop in Selma, Texas, which is just on the edge of San Antonio. Come on down, buy some spooky books. I promise we have something that you would enjoy. The just by probability, right? We have so many books. One of them you will like. I guarantee it. Not enough to offer a refund, but just enough to sound confident on a podcast. All right, this is my conversation with Preston about cursed media. Let's go, baby! All right, Preston. I think before we begin this episode, we have to establish something. Now, is this episode going to be about movies that'll cursed, like, say, supposedly The Wizard of Oz? We'll be talking about movies about cursed movies. Which one will we do in here?
Was kind of thinking that we would do sort of a tightrope walk act because I think that a cursed movie can be different things. I think that it can be a film that carries some sort of like supernatural quality about it, or it can be a movie that's itself, there's just something inherently wrong with it. So for me, like cursed films is kind of a broad net.
Okay, so a little bit of both. A little bit of both. Now that we've established that, let's go ahead and talk about why you chose this specific topic. What makes you, Preston, the scholar on this topic, and you know more about this topic than anybody else? That's what you claimed a second ago. You were like, you could have other guests on this topic, but they wouldn't know as much as I would. That's a direct quote, I believe. So please go on.
Movies have always been this incredible safe space for me, and I think they are for a lot of people. And going to a movie theater or watching movies at home with other people, it becomes this very safe, cathartic experience. And it's almost like going to religious services. There's a lot of similarities between going to a movie theater and attending a church service or a temple service. You all come together for the same reason, and you have this unifying experience. There's something almost pure and holy about it. And so the idea that there could be a movie, a film of some sort that is evil or corruptive or depicts something that hurts or harms or destroys the audience. It almost makes them the black masses of cinema. And then another reason I think that I'm so interested in it is that I came up in this generation of the early internet where shock sites were such this big thing. And I think that I'm probably from the first generation who might have accidentally clicked on a link and seen Bud Dwyer blow his head off. That's one of the reasons that one of my favorite books from the past couple of years is Todd Keesling's Scanlines, about these kids who see what's basically the Bud Dwyer type, and it's curses them, because I had that experience. And
Yeah.
there's something very inherently disturbing and corruptive about seeing that recorded on video, and there's something about it being preserved for posterity that gives it this extra sense of it being corruptive somehow. I mean, for centuries, for millennia, people have been attending public executions, or have been watching people get killed in the Colosseum back in the time of the Roman Empire, but they didn't have the technology to actually record that. And now we've reached that point in human history and development, and it's wrong. It's just soul level wrong.
Yeah, it's become more mainstream than ever at this point, I would say. Also, shout out to Bud Dwyer. He is a friend of the podcast. He's been mentioned in mill episodes, and anything else has been mentioned. At this point, he might as well be a co-host. What do you have to say today, Bud? Oh, nothing. He's dead. Um, can you recall like the first either movie or internet clip that you saw like in your youth that you watched and thought, oh, this should not be consumed by human eyes?
I used to be a regular poster on this pro wrestling board, and I was just scrolling through it one day. I was maybe 10 or 11 years old, and just to fuck with the other people on the board, somebody had just embedded an autoplay clip of a woman blowing her brains out. And that traumatized me. I was not old enough to see that. I don't think anybody's ever old enough to see that, but to see it at like 10, 11 years old, it had
Mhm.
this impact on me.
Yeah, that's a bad age to be watching that stuff. I mean, any age is bad, like you said, but I was around the same age and like going to rotten.com with my friends, and we should not have done that. It was a terrible experience. I know that wasn't the only
Yeah,
website. That was one that my generation latched onto, definitely. And there's just something, I don't even know what the build is. Like, not ugly isn't the right build, just like something that shadows any concept you have of safety when you watch something like that. And
hmm,
talking about this now, like, so there's a movie I love now, but when I saw it at a super young age, it doesn't have any like superstitious like curses on it that you would read about on the internet. But when I watched it, the only thing I thought as I was watching it as a child was, this is not a safe movie. This movie is dangerous. And that movie was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. When I watched that movie, like at 7 or 8, I felt like I should not be watching it. It felt dangerous. It felt like it was made by a lunatic, which it might have been. I mean, the verdict is still out on that one, but have you seen, like, growing up, did you watch any movies say like that had that same like impact on you?
I had a benefit growing up in that all the horror movies I watched with my mom because my mom is a huge horror fan. And so all of the early horror experiences I had, I got to have the experience of watching them in the safety of being with my mom. I'm trying to think because I know I have had this experience. Um, I think it's Sinister. My wife and I went to go see Sinister, sight unseen. My wife saw like a 2 second clip from like the end of a trailer, and she was like, "There's a cool looking monster in it." And we went in to see that, not knowing what it was about, not knowing what to expect. And the second that opening image hits the screen of the family with the bags over their heads
Hmm.
and the hanging, my heart hit my balls. and I was like, what is this? And it was one of the later showings of the day. My wife and I left the theater. It was a late summer, early August, if I recall correctly, Texas sunset, where just the world was awash in like this orange, almost blood red lights. And we both went home. I don't think either of us said a word in the car on the way home. And it just felt like we had just seen something we weren't supposed to. And then that night, the electricity of the entire neighborhood went out. And we ended up driving like half an hour to a Whataburger and sitting there for 3 hours until we got a notification on my phone that the lights had come back on.
Yeah, that's a terrifying experience. That's a great movie. I love Sinistral. Have not seen the sequel yet. Have you?
I have. It's not bad, but
Hmm.
knowing what you're going into, nothing can live up to the power of the original.
I seldom have an interest in watching sequels. I don't know why that is. I know people love like when something becomes like a whole franchise, but for me it's like just one and done and that's it. Even if I love the movie like Sinistral, I just something in me just dies out when I find out that it continues. It's like I don't kill. I'm fine.
It's not bad, but it becomes more of this kind of adventure movie almost, with the deputy from the first one tracking down all of the houses where the cursed movies have been shot and destroying them to try and stop the demons. So it loses a lot of that insular, isolated, claustrophobic feeling of the first movie.
I see. So in Sinistral 2, they got a big house budget this time. So Sinistral 1, we just have the one house. But this time,
Uh-huh.
we have lots of houses. Do you think that's how they pitched it?
I think it's like they like opening up the world, because like there's
Yeah.
also like a romance there, or there's like a romance subplot with the deputy like getting together with this abused woman who's on the run from her ex-husband, and like
Mhm.
she's got two kids and he's like trying to be a positive father figure to her kids. It's fundamentally a different type of movie.
Okay. What would be some movies? I mean, that Sinistral is about like movies, right? It's watching movies
Hmm.
and that. Yeah. So what would
Yeah.
be some other movies that you had in mind that you wanted to discuss about, I don't know, like evil movies?
So one of the very first narrativized things I saw about evil movies is this Spanish film called Tesis, and it is about a college girl who is doing research about depictions of violence in the media, and discovers that in the archives of her college is an actual snuff film that appears to have been shot at her school. And she teams up with this guy who is a basically the ultimate horror movie fan, and who knows all about the world of special effects and real horror movies versus ostensibly or horror movies versus ostensibly real movies. He like knows about the Faces of Death franchise, and he's like this really weird, spindly, creepy dude, but he's also really charismatic. And the two of them go on this hunt to uncover when this film is recorded at their college and if the killers might still be on campus.
Yeah, you mentioned that title to me. I didn't recognize it, but you talking about it right now. I haven't seen this movie, but I recall someone else telling me about this movie, and it might have been you a while ago. And it sounds just like the perfect movie that, like, for my tastes. I have to track this down. What is it called again?
It's called Thesis. It's the Spanish word for thesis. So I just take thesis and take
Okay.
the H out of it. Um,
Okay.
I I saw it as a teenager through what I'll call dubious means, and this was before I was 18, so you can't prosecute me on this. I don't know if it's conventionally commercially available right now, but it should be fairly easy to track down. The filmmaker has a very vibrant career, and I'm going to lose a lot of Spanish cinema points for this. I always get them confused, Amenabar and Almodovar.
Hmm.
I want to say it's Almodovar.
Okay.
Shit.
Well, it's fine. I think anyone would forgive you. Uh, no one's gonna track you down and beat you up that I know about. That guy got the name wrong. Let's kill him. Uh, I gotta look this movie up because I've been wanting to watch it for a long time, but I forgot I wanted to watch it until you just now talked about it. But I love snuff films. Don't take that out of context. I love movies about snuff films. It's really, I don't love the concept of snuff films, but I love the concept of people investigating snuff films still. That won't get me killed by Phil saying. Like 8mm, of course, is great. I've edited a lot of fiction about snuff films. I did a whole book called Lost Films, which isn't all about snuff films, although we do have some snuff stuff in it. But it's all about like cursed media and like Phileas hauntings concerning visual components. One of my favorite projects I've ever been involved in. But the one movie that I know you also mentioned in the list when we were talking about doing this is one movie I love almost more than any of these is Cigarette Burns by John Carpenter.
Yes.
That is, I saw that at a young age, maybe not too young, I don't know when it came out, but I was getting the DVDs of Masterals of Who from like the library when they would come out, and it, that was the first episode, right? It was like the pilot episode.
I
I think
actually don't
so.
know.
I think so. I remember like none of the other ones ever living up to it. Like it began like, oh my God, this is gonna be the best show of all time. But nothing quite lived up to Cigarette Burns for me. Maybe the Don Coscarelli one that he did an adaptation of Joe Lansdale's something about a mountain. I don't know. But Cigarette Burns is just fantastic. What do you want to talk about when it comes to this movie?
I mean, that's like the ultimate movie about cursed movies. It just handles everything about it so well, and the idea of having actually recorded this, this profane act of like clipping an angel's wings. It goes back to that idea of a evil movie being like an analog to a black mass, and just the way that it's all handled leading up to the reveal of what's on the film and the lore behind it. Uh, Le Fin d'Absolu Dumont has become like a byword between my wife and I for just like really like fucked up cinema or like some like extreme experience.
Yeah.
It's just great.
I always thought it would make a good like double feature with In the Mouth of Madness because that one is like the book version of that basically. That's about a haunted book, and this is about the movie. And I just love it when Kilpin like really zeroes in on like an obsession in a movie because he does it so well. Um, yeah, I
I would
haven't
love.
seen. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna transition to something else, so please go
Uh,
ahead.
I was just going to say I would love to see Cigarette Burns paired with Antrim, this movie about a cursed film, and then what's ostensibly actually a cursed film.
I was just reading about this because you had listed it in the Discworld. I have never even heard of this movie before. So what can you tell me about it?
So it is an independent feature, and it came out right before COVID, and then it kind of just disappeared, flew under the radar, and then in a weird way actually benefited from COVID because a clip from it went viral on TikTok, and like everybody started going and watching this thing because it just so happened to be free on Prime at the time. And the conceit behind the movie, it's a frame narrative. So like the first like 20, 30 minutes or so are a mockumentary about this movie called Antrim that supposedly made the rounds on the festival circuit back in the 70s and was followed by this string of death and destruction. And like ostensibly every festival director who turned it down died under mysterious circumstances. And there was a riot at one of the theaters that did show it, and another one of the theaters that showed it supposedly burned down. And then this thing disappeared. And they've got like these actual film historians and different horror experts playing themselves, talking about what they have heard or know about Antrim. And then, like 20 minutes or so into the movie, the mockumentary stops and you actually get to see the movie. And so you actually get to watch what is supposed to be this cursed film. And it's this movie about this sister and her little brother who go looking for a portal to hell because the little boy's dog bit him, and so her mother had to put down and told him that she had to put the dog down because he was a bad dog, and the little boy thinks that his dog has gone to hell, and so he and his sister go out into these woods looking for a portal to hell to try and rescue their dog, and starts to experience all this supernatural phenomenon. And it's really spooky and unsettling. It's really uncanny horror. You really get an unsafe feeling watching this. The directors did a really excellent job of crafting what I think a cursed film would look and feel like. And then at the very end of the movie, you go back to the mockumentary and it wraps up this frame narrative with these talking heads like giving their summations on what Antrim is and where did it come from.
What does Antrim mean, like as a world? I don't even know what that is. Is that like a
It's a
secret
bio,
in the movie?
no, it's a biological term. It's like an entryway into something.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense given what you just said.
Yeah,
Yeah, I didn't know this movie existed until you mentioned it, and it sounds great. I mean, one thing, I just love the concept of two kids trying to find hell in the woods. That just sounds great by itself, but like with the other stuff bookending it as well. I mean, that sounds like something I want to watch today, and I probably am going to. I'll probably stop this
it pops.
podcast and go home and watch it.
Yeah, it pops up. Pop, 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 fuck. It pops up free on Prime a lot.
Okay, cool, cool. I will check out and see. I'm sure I can find it any place. I mean, it's 2023, baby. Movies or places. You can find them. Let's see. I'm trying. Oh, I was thinking about this before we began, but fucking The Ring would count big time in this
Oh
discussion.
man, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
You know,
that
this really
movie, I was obsessed with that movie when I was a kid. I mean, I'm talking about the American remake. I know I've seen the original Japanese version, but I don't recall much about it. But the American version, I've seen a lot, and it's pretty spooky, man.
It's amazing. Yeah, the Japanese version, that's another one of these movies that I saw through dubious means as a teenager, and I liked it. But at the time, I remember thinking, I don't get it. And I actually found this web forum of Japanese English speakers who were huge fans of American horror cinema. And then the other people on the message board were American fans of Japanese horror cinema. It was this really cool community of people sharing different movies from their respective cultures and then also providing context for it. And in the aftermath of Gore Verbinski's Ring coming out, I remember this Japanese member of the forum who had married an American person and was very familiar with both societies, saying that a lot about the original Ring is very specific to Japanese culture and society. And there's a lot of things that the director just really took for granted that the audience was going to just really mesh with. And I think that's what's so brilliant about Gore Verbinski's Ring is I think that he synthesized that through an American scope so that nothing is lost from that adaptation. And it's just as spooky and scary and is one instance for me at least where I would say the remake is superior to the original. And I mean, maybe that's me speaking as an American, but I think it's a great movie. That's one of the first movies that I went and saw multiple times in the theater with my where I had like my own cash from working and like took myself to go watch that multiple times.
When was the last time a movie like that just like took over society? Because I feel like everybody was talking about that movie. I mean, there was so many, like even like parody skits of the whole 7 days you'll die thing. I mean, it just seemed to take over the country, at least from like my perspective as like a kid when it came out. It was like the thing. But I mean,
Yeah,
not the movie The Thing. It was just a thing.
it was. I mean, it was such a cultural phenomenon, and it came out right alongside the Clone Wars or Attack of the Clones, and it was amazing that this horror movie that's not part of a major franchise, and I don't know, was that before Pirates of the Caribbean or was that after Pirates of the Caribbean?
I don't know. It was
I can't
probably
remember.
around the same time. You know how those prequels to Star Wars, they when they were coming out, they had the Pepsi can promotions, all the Pepsi cans.
Yeah,
How come we didn't get that with the ring? That'd be amazing to have whatever that kid's name was, just like every can she's slightly closer. That would have been awesome.
That would have been amazing.
My friend's brother, he had all those Pepsi cans, and one day he did something to piss off my friend, so we spent the afternoon drinking every can, and because he had
Oh
them, and
man.
they tasted awful, but it was just like a spite thing we were doing, and they were really like hot sodas as well, and he was not happy with us. He had the whole
That is
collection.
amazing. Oh boy.
Man, what else? Anything else you have in mind you wanted to discuss when it comes to cursed media?
Going back to the ring, do you know about the way that they were promoting that when it first came out?
Remind me.
Because that's a great story for anybody who doesn't know this. They actually mass produced a bunch of VHSs that were just the cursed video from the ring. What Naomi Watts sees when she puts the VHS in the player,
I did
and
not
they
know
just
this.
and they just distributed them all over America. They would leave them at sporting events. They would leave them at movie theaters. They would leave them in like random shopping center parking lots. And you would just take this thing home and put it in and see the cursed video. And then at
Wow.
the end, it would direct you to a URL. And they had set up this alternate reality game where you could find a website for the resorts that Naomi Watts goes to, where she finds the tape. You could find a website that was supposedly being run by the mother of the girl who dies in the movie, saying that there's mysterious circumstances around her daughter's death, trying to figure it out. And if you dug deeply enough into this thing, eventually it got you around to the DreamWorks page for the Ring movie. But I can't imagine what kind of pants shitting terror it would be to find that tape, like a concert parking lot, and take it home and watch that.
Did you get one? Well, no.
I didn't. The only cursed
Oh,
video I've ever gotten is the Sega Saturn promo video.
fuck is that?
So the Sega Saturn, the video game system that tanked, they just randomly mailed people that they knew who owned Sony's or Sega Genesises, and I don't know how they got people's addresses. And they sent them this weird ass video, and it had like a picture of a sticker of Saturn on top of the tape. And you put it in, and it's like really psychedelic and trippy. It's like a cross between something that David Lynch and Terrence Malick would have shot. And there's like all of these shots of like outer space, and it's like this guy's painted purple with a white goatee, and he's like yelling into the camera, and there's like this like pretty naked woman with like the rings of Saturn around her head, like staring at the camera, and it's like all talking about, we're going to take you to a new realm, a new world. And you're watching this and it's like, what the hell is this? And then at the very end you find out that it's a promo video for a video game or a video game system.
Man, promotion used to be so cool before we all just began relying on posting a link on social media. I mean, it used to be great. Like
I know.
I'm thinking of like back when crack.com was cool. Like specifically the films of crack.com. David Wong, aka Jason Pilgin, when he would release his new novels, he would always like create this super elaborate, I can't even think of what it's called, but it's basically like a scavenger hunt across the internet of various links. Like he would have to like take the code of a website and find like one tiny hint in it. I mean, it was always like just the coolest thing. And now, I mean, we don't do mysterious VHS tapes. We don't do anything now. We just go,
Yeah.
please like and subscribe. Please, please retweet. And this is why no one sells anything anymore. I actually tried doing that with Scanlines. We made a whole website. I shot this 8-minute video of myself in front of a TV that was just like a static screen, and I was like stabbing it with a knife. And we like did all these like a scavenger hunt to like get to the website. No one went to it.
Oh man, I missed that.
Yeah, it was like we acted like the social medias got hacked and we were posting like all these cryptic messages on the timeline, and eventually like we had links going to the site, but yeah, it was a bust because the way the fucking internet operates now, no one wants to leave the social media site they're on. They don't want to click a link. They just want to stay in the feed. And the algorithms only want to show you things that let the user stay. They don't want to show you something that will take you away from the website. It's just like a fucking snake eating its own tail at this point. I mean, we'll just
Nah,
this is depressing. I don't
I
know.
miss fan sites.
Yeah. I what do you think happened to those VHSs of The Ring? I mean, they have to be around. I'm
I
probably
mean,
on eBay.
I don't know. I've never looked. And like the Sega Saturn tapes too, I know they've still got to be out there. Is it one of these things where like everybody thought that it was nothing, so they discarded it? I've heard the story supposedly when Jack White was first getting started out, he worked as a upholsterer in a furniture store, and he actually put some demo discs of his early work inside of like different pieces of furniture. And apparently, to this day, Jack White says nobody has come forth with any one of those demo discs. And I wonder if it's a similar thing with the Ring videos that's they just kind of disappeared into the ether.
Probably. I'm trying to look at eBay, but my damn browser's freezing, so never mind. Um, yeah, I don't know. Okay, it just opened. I'm just getting VHSs of the movie itself.
Yes, the problem is that you look up the Ring VHS, and yeah, I'm getting the Ring on VHS.
I even typed in promo, but yeah. If anyone listening to this has one of these, let us know. Well, even if you happen to watch it back when it came out in 2002, 2003, man, I have never even read about this before. Promo the Ring. I'll cut this dead silence. Um,
I know, kind of adds to the show.
yeah, all right. Less real on my end. Now I'm just getting VHSs of Lord of the Rings. Okay, we're not gonna find this. Oh
Man,
well.
I found a $155 The Ring movie promo shirt.
Oh yeah.
14 people are currently watching it. Huh.
That's fucking crazy. Who are all these people?
Maybe they're the people who saw the tape back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not coming up with anything.
Oh well. Maybe it's one of those things that happened and then everyone forgot about. Who
Yeah.
knows? Um, well, I think that's about enough talk when it comes to Curious Media. Let's talk about some of your books. What do you want to promote, man?
Beasts of 42nd Street, which is my book about cursed media. It's set in the between the 1960s and the 1970s, and it's about a movie theater projectionist who comes into possession of a snuff film, and he becomes obsessed with the woman in the movie, and basically dedicates his entire life to finding out who she was, and this kind of starts to destroy him psychologically. And every person who finds out about this movie and sees it for themselves similarly becomes obsessed with it and all want to own it for themselves. And it becomes this race to the bottom among the New York underworld for who is ultimately going to possess it for their own. When I pitched it to Cemetery Dance, I sold it to them as Taxi Driver meets Hellraiser.
Did Cemetery Dance put that out?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. I was thinking it was I never know how to say the name of this press. And Psycho Apocalypse and Psycho.
So they yeah, Encyclopocalypse. They do my other books, and then
Mm.
Cemetery Dance acquired Beast of 42nd Street.
Oh, sweet, sweet. Yeah, Cemetery Dance is cool. Um, I haven't read it yet because I'm a bad friend, but I love the concept. And
No, no, no.
like I said, I love snuff films. If you show me if you talk about snuff films, I'm gonna listen. I mean, something about them. I was reading earlier about snuff films, and I didn't write it down or read too much into it, so this is just my hazy brain. So you probably know more about this than I do, but supposedly the concept of a snuff film was invented when a rumor was spreading that a video of a Manson killing was.
Yes. Yeah, supposedly there was this video, there's this film reel of a decapitated body on the beach that the Mansons had supposedly killed this person. And I
Hmm.
can't remember who it was who was writing about it, and they referred to it as a snuff film, and that's where the term first came from and first took off. And I don't think that there ever was one. I think it was just one of the many rumors that grew up around the Manson family, but that was
Hmm.
kind of what's the word I'm looking for? The impetus for the idea of the snuff movie. And then that got capitalized on this pair of directors named Michael and Roberta Finley. They went down to South America and shot this biker Manson exploitation film, and it kind of sat on the shelf for a while, didn't get released. And what the production company or the distributor did was they went and shot a new scene that they tacked on to the end of the movie that supposedly shows the crew members killing one of the extras from the movie. And it's like nobody at all
What?
related to the original shoot. Yeah, yeah. So the original movie, and so the movie cuts off, and you supposedly see like on sets, and like the idea behind this is you go and you watch this really shitty biker movie, and then at the end you actually see one of the extras killed by the crew. And they released this thing on 42nd Street, and they hired protesters to march in front of the theater protesting that they were going to show this movie where a woman gets murdered. And that attracted the attention of real protesters, and so actual feminist groups and like women against pornography showed up, and it caused this big scene in Times Square. And the movie like made this chunk of money, and Michael and Roberta Finley had no idea about this, had nothing to do with that, and were understandably kind of pissed that like their film was turned into this kind of tasteless marketing gimmick.
Yeah.
And they released it as snuff. And so calling the movie snuff just further helps to enshrine both the term snuff film and the idea of the snuff film in the American popular consciousness, because it got all of this media attention because of the protests.
Wow, what an insane decision to make. Why don't
Hmm.
all movies have like that secret bonus ending? Just some random person from the crew dying. Oh God. I had no idea. That's really interesting. How can folks find this book? I mean, what a dumb question. You go places and you buy it.
uh,
Do you have a preferred website?
if you want to support indie press, go to cemeterydance.com. It's available there in paperback, or if it's just in your means and most convenient for you to do Amazon, it's available there as well, or anywhere books are sold.
And how can folks find you online?
I'm on Facebook and Twitter, just Preston Fassel.
All right. I think that about wraps it up. Any final thoughts about snuff films?
Um, I wanted to do something different with Beast of 42nd Street, and the snuff film itself is cursed. And
Mhm.
actually, after I had finished writing Beast of 42nd Street, when I found out about scan lines, I like just about shit myself, and I like ordered it like overnight shipping and read it in one day because I was like, oh my God, I didn't accidentally like rip anything off, did I? And I was
Yeah.
okay, no. But similar to scan lines, I wanted the snuff film not just to be a snuff film, but also to carry some kind of supernatural power. um, there was this urban legend that circulated for the longest time. So back in the 70s, this newswoman down in Florida, Christine Chubbuck, committed suicide live on air.
Yeah.
And yeah, and made that movie with what's her name, Jennifer,
No,
not Car, um,
she was also
Rebecca.
Rebecca something. It's Rebecca something.
Yeah,
I can't
and
think of her name, but I've seen the movie. I'll look it up as you talk.
so for years, rumors circulated that the station had actually recorded the suicide, and ghoulish, morbid treasure seekers, I don't know the name for them, were, forever trying to track it down, and were hoping that it would surface on the internet one day. And it turned out, apparently, so the story goes, that yes, it had been recorded, and that yes, the station owner got his hands on the tape after the police were done with it, and that he had stored it in a bank vault. And the story goes that on his deathbed, he told his wife that this tape was in the bank vault, and he told her two things. He told her, never watch it, never destroy it. And that was just this spooky feeling I got when I read that, and just put this idea in my mind that it might have some kind of dark supernatural power. And that was
Yeah.
an idea that that was the idea that I wanted to explore with Beasts of 42nd Street and the nature of the movie and the book.
Yeah. It was Rebecca Hall who was in it.
Rebecca
Yeah,
Hall.
she's great. Yeah. That movie is extremely sad.
It's intense, yeah.
Yeah. What was the other movie she was just into? Because I watched both of them back to back on the same day. Hold on. Oh, Resurrection. Did you see that?
I haven't seen that one.
Really good
I'll,
movie.
I'll watch anything she's in there. She's fantastic.
Yeah, she was also in what was it called? The Night House? Is that the name of it?
Yes,
She's
yes.
just great. She should, yeah, if she's in the movie, I'm gonna watch it. She has such a great fucking presence. She just takes over the screen.
And the guys who wrote The Night House too, anything that they've written, I'll watch. Ben Collins and Luke Petrovsky, they're great.
What else have they
I
done?
just, um, I read an unproduced screenplay of theirs years ago that's just really amazing. And what else have they done? Oh, they did the new Hellraiser. They wrote the new Hellraiser movie.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet.
They did a great job with it.
Cool, cool. All right. Well, I believe that's it. Before we wrap up, I just have one last question.
All right.
Pro or anti-snuff film?
Anti-snuff film, pro media about snuff films.
Bold choice, but I respect it.
Live spooky, die spooky.
Rest in peace, Max.